Welcome to the third grade curriculum preview for the second 6 weeks. Let's take a look at the reading expectations for Unit 2. Where you want kids to be is in a text level N for satisfactory. Pushing them on to level O would be a strong skill, and if you have those students that are in level M, that's a limited skill, and those students would need to have intervention and constant each day guided reading group with you. By the end of the 6 weeks units, students are expected to be reading independently for greater than 20 minutes at a time, and need to address what I mean by independent reading. So we have 300 minutes of independent reading, 300 minutes of guided reading. This 6 weeks they're going to master making inferences about the text and using textual evidence to support understanding. This is big on STARS. What we always just really miss the mark on is really having our kids understanding what making inferences is, and then finding the text evidence to support what they know. So your 3 kinds of thinking and great lessons on inferences going to give us a strong foundation. And then the last, reading independently with comprehension and fluency. In our new planning documents, we have the focus lesson, and you know that they look like this. They're in the yearly contents. We also hope you're using our unit planners where they go in and they are planning each 6 weeks. And then here are your Unit 2s that the guided reading or the focus lessons that you need to be looking at. So you see with the comprehension toolkit, the Infer Meaning book is going to be extremely important to teaching inference this 6 weeks. So I hope that you're using the word study, the English word study, because it is amazing. Week 7, you're going to do in a snack sight words, and these are words that are nouns that they have in their everyday language that they really need to understand what they are. And what you're going to teach is that sometimes you cannot, when you're doing a sight words, you can't hear the sound, so you have to commit it to a heart memory about these type of words. What is it that you have to, the A and the U, just have to commit that to your memory. Also in this week, you're going to be reviewing grades 1 and 2 homophones, so maybe make sure that those homophones are secure. Our 2s and 2s, most definitely, is one that is really one that we see in our writing all the time that they don't hold on to. So holding them accountable for those homophones and knowing the difference which each one means. Week 8, we have complex contractions. In grade 2, they studied simple contractions, so you might want to review those. That's in the document. And then you'll want to talk about what complex contractions are. So that's what we gave. Week 9 and 10 is one of the biggest things about spelling. When they get to 5th grade, they still don't know the doubling rule. We see it in their writing at all times. And so this concept and this rule is extremely important that you spend an enormous amount of time on to helping them understand the rule. That's what the spelling program is all about, is helping kids understand the rules and then how to apply those to words. So weeks 9 and 10, you're going to spend a long time on making sure that they understand that consonant doubling rule. Week 11 and 12 is you're going back to the 6 most common syllable types, looking at what suffix rules apply to that. So I hope you're using your word study. One of the great features about the word study, at the end of each of the 6 weeks units, you have a grammar alert that addresses the conventions that are in your standards for this 6 weeks. So let's take a look at the common and proper nouns, singular and plural nouns, and then coordinating conjunctions. So with each of these, you can see that in this document it gives you ideas and activities, learning activities that you're going to do with your students to really secure those grammar skills, those conventions that are in your standards. One of the things we added new is the academic vocabulary. It's in the content connections. We now have the document that shows English and have the translations for the SLR folks. So you want to include those words within your study of knowing what those words are. Each 6 weeks you are to study 10 to 12 vocabulary words selected from the great books that you're reading. Each week identify a minimum of 1 to 2 words to develop into depth. Okay, and so that whole lesson of building vocabulary through literature is where you're going to find out how do you really choose good vocabulary that's essential. Another thing with your word work is teaching cursive. We have tried to give you a great resource in teaching cursive that's in the new Norma Jackson resources. So this 6 weeks you're going to teach 12 lowercase and uppercase cursive letters. They're expected to write these letters individually and join in words with correct formation, proportion, and slant. And then take a look at the year at a glance. So this is for the first 6 weeks. The first 6 weeks, these are the sets of cursive letters that you were supposed to secure. Next, the second 6 weeks, here is the list. In this document are lots of great resources for you to go to and help with, but also at the very end we have a rubric that helps you to get a grade. So you might want to look at that document and use the rubric to assign a grade for handwriting. Now it's that time where you should really have your reading workshop, the learning environment, the literate classroom just up and running. You've got a couple of workstations or activities that you're using during that independent time that you have secured. So let's talk about, we've already talked about word study. That is completely different. You're going to be studying the things we just talked about in about 10 to 15 minutes each day, practicing those. And then you're going into your reading workshop time, where there is a focus lesson that you come together and you are teaching a reading skill. You're modeling using a gradual release of responsibility. And then you will now begin your guided reading groups. We've had the bill live, you know your data from your kids, so it's now time to group them according to the data that you have for them and put them into groups. So after your focus lesson, you're going to be going to the small guided reading table to start the guided reading groups, and your students are beginning their independent practice of the skill that you've taught in the focus lesson. Independent reading is one of those skills that you should be doing with them. But independent reading here is different than sustained silent reading. The independent reading here is practicing the skill that you have done in the focus lesson. Very important too that I'd really like for you to remember that this is a circle and that each component is important. Stopping the kids right before the saying, boys and girls, we're fixing to stop reading workshop. I want you to, I've asked you to bring evidence of learning about theme today in your reading. So gather your things and meet me on the rug in 5 minutes, and then reflecting and bringing all that learning back together. So those parts of reading workshop are very important. Your lead standards for this 6 weeks are making inferences about text and using textual evidence to support understanding. This is the foundation of where we need to really focus in on having great lessons over rinsing and repeating, using and making inference and modeling for them. So you're going to be doing that. They're expected to use ideas to make and confirm predictions. They're also going to, with independent reading, they're expected to read deeply for a sustained period of time and paraphrase what the reading is about, maintaining meaning in logical order. So see, when the independent reading, it's not sustained reading. It is they are doing something with that reading. So they're expected to monitor their stamina, and then they're expected to read narrative and informational text and comprehension and remember at the levels. And then we have fluency. They're recognizing and improving their phrasing. So the genres that we're going to be using are poetry. You do that every single week. Fables, myths, and legends, fiction. With fiction, you look at your BISD expectation. We want to, they're expected to paraphrase to generate a summary statement for each main event in the plot is the BISD expectation. You're going to identify whether the speaker or the narrator of the story is in first or third person. So doing lessons that hit on that particular skill. You're going to do literary nonfiction. They're expected to explain the difference in the point of view between a biography and an autobiography. Great social studies lead in there. Then with informational text and expository text, the BISD expectation is they're expected to preview by skimming and scanning text features. Those subtitles, those illustrations, topic sentences to get the gist of brief text or excerpts of longer text. So, and then the last is with procedural text, they are expected to follow and explain a set of written multi-step directions. So those are your standards for reading this 6 weeks. So what's your focus lessons? If you want to follow along in your overview, you would be on page 6 where you start where it says the classroom approaches for use. And as you're planning, you might want to jot down what you might want to put in each week. So one of the first things you're going to do is do an anchor chart with the grade level. How well do our ideas stick together? And that's to introduce the term coherence, all right, with that. You draw attention to the 4 questions. Each 6 weeks they will examine different aspects of coherence. You cover all but the first question. Explain they will begin thinking about how the ideas within a paragraph stick together. You're looking at paragraphs. So that's one of your first anchor lesson. Paraphrasing, modeling how to paraphrase. You must teach them how to do this with modeling. This is, you could look back at the strategy they've used in K-2 by applying that to stop and jot. Modeling practice stopping at strategic points in their reading to record a word, phrase, or brief note about their reading. And then in the overview, we give you several resources that might help you in planning that lesson. But that's when you're going to rinse and repeat with all types of genre. You're really analyzing how a paragraph sticks together this 6 weeks. So using the one paragraph, one main idea, you're going to analyze the structure of a paragraph within a focus lesson or several focus lessons. So that might be something that you really stay on for a couple of weeks about what does a paragraph look like, what's inside of that. Then teaching students the conventions of marking paragraphs. And you see all of the things in italics are Norma Jackson resources that will help you to guide you in those focus lessons. You're going to use freeze time to provide looking at 1 or 2 paragraphs from a wide range of published text. So you as a teacher are going to find lots of narrative and informational text and model how freeze time is used within 1 or 2 of the paragraphs of those pieces of text. So that's something that's real important. And then how does the central message affect the development of a paragraph is a Norma Jackson resource to help you. You need to reinforce the connection between plot and the central message of a theme. If you look at your overview, you're going to see some different things that we have asked you to do in that. Model explain the influence of event in future of the event of future events. And explain the influence of an event on future events. Looking at your overview, you can see the different aspects that you need to teach with doing that foreshadowing. What happens, like Goldilocks sat at the table, and then what happened next. So what happened is she ate every last bite. She put the bowl in the sink. Just using stories they already know to show which event belongs in the empty box. In narrative text, you're going to look for opportunities to discuss the point of view from which the story is told. So your first and third persons is extremely important. You need to do a lot of close reading of all the genres. Doing thinking, the 3 types of thinking and close reading. And remember, your tips for close reading has that plan of how you plan that particular lesson. You need to do that at least once a week, a close reading, at least once or twice a week. The comprehension toolkit, the inference book, is one of your best resources. Lessons 10 and 11 are inferring with text clues, so you would do those lessons and then rinse and repeat with other genres. Then lesson 14 and 15 are about reading and wrapping your mind around big ideas. Then also lesson 13 is about cracking open the features, the text features. So that's a real important lesson to do this 6 weeks. So those are your focus lessons that you might want to do. And so let's talk a little bit about independent reading. When you go into reading workshop, you have your focus lesson, you teach that skill. The first thing the student should be doing is looking and independently reading but with a purpose. So whatever the purpose was that you had in the skill that you presented in your focus lesson, kids will be self-selecting out of their book boxes within their independent reading and applying that skill and having accountability. So they need to complete at least 1 to 3 weekly reading responses in their independent reading. That could either be in a reader's notebook or a sticky note. That's just up to you, or on a graphic organizer. One of the things we talked about this summer was the tic-tac-toe responses that will help you to extend that independent reading. So those are in yearly content. Just print those off and use one of these as a focus lesson. Pick any paragraph in your text. What is the main idea? How does each sentence support the main idea? This is going along with what we've talked about. So this might be a response that you start with and have kids do in their independent reading. So looking at it, I want to show you that they do have a rubric for the literary responses at the end of the tic-tac-toe. One of the resources that I found is the Tony Steed, and I've given you a link here to it when you download this PowerPoint. Here are some reading responses that he has, and this is a great book, but the resources are online that are in this book that shows you different ways to make, to do some reading responses with independent reading. Now is the time that you're going to start your guided reading groups. If you've not already started them, you've put your kids in groups. This is when you need to pull out that next step in guided reading, because you'll know whether they're transitional, fluent, and you'll, if they're in the transitional, you'll be looking at that chapter, and that's in pages 144 through 177, and then the next chapter is like the fluent. So you will go to this particular resource and download the template that you're going to use, and then each group will have a folder, and within it you'll have this template for your lesson plan. What's great about the guided reading book is that Jan takes you through, and as you decide on what book you're going to do and you get what you're going to say, then it says the teaching points. You choose 1 or 2 each day. So you don't choose all of these. But in the book, if you choose one of these, you go to, and within these pages, and it will explain what does this look like if you were to do it with students. So it's just like a teaching guide, and it is a teaching guide to how you are doing those components. Remember that before, during, and after parts of the guided reading thing. Now, let's talk about the continuum. If you came to the 2-day conference, we talked a lot about that resource and about how you use it. So let's just say that your students are you have one group, and they are at a level N. And so you get the continuum, and you go to the very last tab, which shows, and go to the end, and look at what are the characteristics of an N book, and then what are the skills that I need to teach to secure so that student can move on to the O, to the next level. So those are 2 great resources helping you in your guided reading, is that Jan Richardson book and the Continuum of Learning, Literacy Learning. Ask your academic coach to help you on this, or call me and I'll come out and help you with this. But this is your guide to guided reading. Also, once you have that you've got those templates, you've got 2 valuable resources at your fingertips. You have your level library that's in your school. So if you know that students are on our level N, you're going to take and look in the book room, and you're going to find the level N books and say, okay, with this, I want to teach these particular skills. What books do I need to get? Check out those books, use those put those in those folders to use, and prepare those lessons using those books. Another resource you're having is Reading A to Z. The level of books, you go to the level that the kids are, and underneath are a plethora of things for you to print. And so these 2 valuable resources are going to give you the resources you need to read each day with your students. RAS Kids is for every student. Every student will have a RAS Kids account. Your academic coaches will be showing you how to level the kids in there. So what that does is, this is a great workstation or literacy activity that you're going to do during reading workshop, where kids are it works on the iPad and on the computer. And what it is, once you level the kids with their independent and with their reading level, then RAS kids will assign them certain levels of books on their level for them to listen to read, and then to do quizzes and different activities. And then you as a teacher will be able to see how they are doing with that. So those are some great resources to really help you during that reading workshop time to really be successful with moving kids. So now let's talk about writing. So your writing skills, we want them to be at a strong 7. And remember how important it is for you to write every single day for those 4th grade teachers. So by the end of the 6 weeks, they need to be writing independently for greater than 20 minutes at a time. They need to be planning, producing first draft writing. They need to have 4 independent written paragraphs that develop a specific main idea to support an informational topic, greater than 1 first draft of informational text. They need to be able to spell those Unit 1 and 2 spelling concepts, sight words, and homophones designated for 3rd graders. So you've already had 6 weeks. Hold them accountable for those words that you've had in spelling. Make sure they could use their spelling dictionary, which is in the Norma Jackson resources. These words should be on your word wall. Hold them accountable in their writing to spell those words correctly. Use the stop routine to proofread for clarity and accuracy in all their first draft writing. We want them using the writer's notebook to record their learning, to set goals as a writer, and to use as a reference tool with them as they're writing during the independent time. Your writing workshop should be put all together. Your focus lesson, independent writing. Remember, they're writing for more than you want them writing that independently, and as they are doing that, you are individually competent walking, stopping, and noticing future focus lessons and SMART notes. If you look on your overview on page 8, you're going to see what it is that you are looking for as you independently walk around and monitor and context. There is an explicit list of the things that you need to be making sure they're in place. So that would not be on your clipboard, but you're looking for those things and you're making notes. And be sure to have that reflection time to celebrate what the kids are doing and helping them to improve in the topic. The focus lessons for writing are to introduce freeze time, and you need to introduce the freeze time and doing the pictures and emotions and the songs with it. This is one piece that I would ask you to please take, download, read it several times. Now you don't have to say every word, but you will see the valuable resource that document is. We're going to introduce it, and then you're going to rinse and repeat, model and practice using freeze time all throughout the second 6 weeks. After the students gain knowledge of freeze time, then you're going to do the upper chart. How do you interact? You just read the overview. It kind of gives you the scaffolding for that lesson that you need to secure. And then you're going to reinforce, stop, and pair. And how you're going to do that is with that new key focus lessons that we've given you. I love this part is because it shows you every part of the stop that's important during this 6 weeks period. So with the S, sticking to the topic, you're going to teach them to establish one clear central message. You want to divide the central message into main ideas, and you shift from the 3-box plan with freeze time. Then telling them about introduce freeze time and use it to develop main ideas and details that add substance. One focus in a paragraph, explanations, descriptions, and connections. In the overhaul part, you're going to be teaching them to omit unnecessary repetitive language or ideas that's in their writing. And then in P, the prompting, the editing, you are looking routinely proofing for accuracy of K through 2 spelling words. So that is your key thing you're looking for in the stop this time. So that ends the 3rd grade, second 6 weeks curriculum preview. If you have any problems and you're going to look at this and discuss some things about what you saw that you like in the discussion following this video. If you need help with anything, please contact your academic coach or myself for further instructions. Thank you and have